What up, what up, what up? Welcome back to Beyond the Sign, a real estate podcast. I'm your host, Frank the Bank Grotman. With me, as always, is the tattooed realtor, Tanya Blake. How you doing, Tanya?
I'm doing good. How are you doing, Frank?
Good, good. It's been a few weeks since we've been on, so thank you guys for being patient. How's everything else going? How's work? What's going on? What have you been up to?
It's been good. This past week, I feel like has been a little bit more busy than it has been, so that's all good stuff.
I've noticed that too, actually. It seems like it's the summer people are here and it's starting to uptick a little bit. And you went on a vacation too. How was that?
I did. We went to Mexico for a couple of days. So
I'm jealous.
It's always
awesome.
Nice to get some sunshine.
That's great. That's good to hear. So why don't we get right into the show and jump right into the property pulse. This week we're going to talk a little bit about the town of Bourne. So what do you got for me, Tanya?
Well, in Bourne, inventory is up. We've got 43 single-family homes that are currently listed, compared to just 27 last year. So that's a 59% increase in listings. But
that's good.
Homes are taking a little bit longer to move now. So the average days on market jumped from 55 to 75 days. So
we've kind of seen that a little bit on a lot of the towns that we've talked about, actually.
Yeah,
for the
I don't
most
think
part,
it's just Bourne. So I think it's
taking longer to sell and staying
Yeah.
on the market a little bit longer, inventory up a little bit. Yep.
In terms of sales, closed units are down also,
Oh, okay.
20% compared to this time last year.
Okay.
The average sale price fell nearly 15%, so now we're just under $640,000. And the homes that did sell this year went for about 98% of their listed price.
Okay,
so slightly down.
Yeah, still pretty close to list price, so that's good. So,
Yep.
But it's kind of consistent that what we've seen across the board, almost in every town, that it's like inventory's up a little, kind of like what we talked about, and the days on market are up, and prices have come down a little bit. So it's kind of what we've seen across the board around here. So awesome, great stuff. Why don't we jump right into the mortgage minute?
Let's do it. So according to bankrate.com, 30-year fixed is sitting between 6.87% and 6.9%. 15-year fixed is 5.90% to 6.9%.
Okay.
And for the 30-year jumbo, we're looking at 6.8%.
It's kind of, again, what we've talked about. It's hovering around 7, comes down a little bit. Actually, a couple weeks ago, I think it went over 7 a little bit again. So again, we talked about it, that we thought it would be kind of a steady year for interest rates, kind of status quo, if you will. So yeah, it's kind of what we've talked about.
I think it's pretty steady.
Yeah. So
do you have any national news for us today, Frank?
I mean, I did read a few different things that were interesting. April home sales from March to April. So April home sales, the estimate was supposed to be about even. They thought that the market would stay about the same in terms of pending what went under contract, and it actually declined by 6.3%. So they thought it would be flat, and so that was kind of a big miss.
Yeah.
I read that on CNBC, and that was kind of interesting to me that the pending home sales fell that much from March to April.
Right.
So yeah, we something, again, we've talked a little bit about that as well. Just thinking that inventory is up. So, and mortgages in general, mortgage rates have been higher. So it hasn't been as busy as we saw. So
it kind of seems like it's balancing out a little bit more now.
Yeah, exactly. And then what else I read was that the mortgage demand for the last 3 weeks has also fallen. So that was something else, again, that kind of goes hand in hand with that first stat, that when mortgage demand drops in terms of like applications being in, a lot of pending home sales, will drop also. So there's not going to be more things going under contract. So
yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
That supply and demand theory there.
Absolutely. And lastly, kind of a funny one that I saw, not funny, but at the end of the day, summer rentals in the Hamptons are down about 30% this year from last year. So they're seeing a lot of cuts on like prices and rents and stuff like that. So, if you got an extra $100,000 lying around and you want to go rent for a month in the Hamptons, now's the time, because you'll get a discount.
Might get a discount, yeah.
So I thought that was kind of an interesting thing to see too. So, but yeah, that's really all I had for that. And so. All right, so why don't we jump right into the best part of the show, in my opinion, the good, the bad, the ugly, the closing confessions. This week, we're talking about an important subject, insurance. So, Tanya, what role does insurance play in real estate?
That's a great question, Frank, and it's actually one of the most important and often overlooked parts of the real estate process. So if a buyer is financing a home, the lender will require proof of homeowner's insurance before closing. If you don't have insurance, the lender will not fund the purchase.
Yeah.
The buyer usually has to show a binder with coverage that meets the lender's requirements and pay the first year's premium upfront.
Yep.
That usually is part of the buyer's closing costs
absolutely.
at closing. From there, insurance is often rolled into the monthly mortgage payment through escrow, along with the property taxes. So it directly impacts affordability, especially in areas where the premiums tend to be a little bit higher.
Yep.
And in coastal areas, high risk areas like Cape Cod, buyers may also need flood insurance or additional wind coverage, which can add thousands to the annual cost.
It's insane, of course.
Yeah, sometimes that can make or break a deal for some
buyers.
I've
seen it happen plenty of times, absolutely. So.
Yeah. Frank, we actually have a special guest today.
We do?
We do. You're the special guest.
Me? Okay,
yeah,
cool.
didn't you, don't you do insurance also?
I do have my insurance license. Let me put my insurance hat on. Hold on a second here, guys.
Oh, perfect.
So, there we go. Now I'm ready. Frank, the insurance agent, is here. So, yes, I do have my insurance license, and I have run into a lot of the things you're saying. A lot of buyers don't realize that you have to pay your mortgage up front. That's a great point there. So you pay that up front, and you're talking $2,000, $3,000, $4,000, and they didn't expect to pay on top of all the other costs to obtain a mortgage and stuff like that, so the closing costs. And then again, like you said, the escrow payment is for the next year, so you're always ahead a year.
Right,
so,
you're ahead.
Yeah, and another, obviously around here, we're talking about Bourne, part of Cape Cod, Wareham, Bourne, all of that. Anything near the coast, flood insurance is insane. It's very, very expensive. I had one quote come in over $10,000 for a year.
Wow.
It's almost $1,000 a month.
Just the flood part of it.
That was just the flood insurance.
Wow.
So when that quote came in, it was like, forget about it. They can't buy the house. That's $1,000 more almost a month.
Right.
So you see that. It's really good to know if you're in an X zone, which X is, if you're going to be put in a zone, that's an optional zone. So that's a great, one to have. If you want to get it, it's cheaper. I would recommend you get it, but you don't have to. You're not typically forced by the mortgage company.
The lender's not forcing you.
Right. So it's required if you're an AE or above. If you're in a velocity zone, those get really expensive. So you should know these things for sure. So some of that, again, we run into it a lot around here. We've seen a huge increase in homeowners insurance and flood insurance. And a lot of it has to do with some of these storms that we're seeing. Has to do with the cost to fix everything. I mean, 10 years ago, you could build something for a lot cheaper than you can build today. So the insurance companies are now increasing their cost everywhere. Some insurance companies leave and don't want to be anywhere near the coast, even just for regular homeowners insurance. So a lot of these things are really, really affecting what you can afford, how much you can afford.
Yeah, I've actually seen people who've purchased their properties and then, a year or two out, they are wondering why their mortgage payment went up so much.
Oh, it's crazy.
If it's not taxes, it's insurance.
Right. So, I mean, that can affect, exactly. So every year, you're at the end of the year, they're going to send you an escrow statement showing whether your taxes went up. And if your property values went up, guess what? Your taxes typically follow suit with your appraised value. Your assessed value, excuse me. And then, again, the insurance cost. I mean, look at what's happening in Florida. Right. It's insane. And again, are we talking about the national news? CNBC, the very first thing that pops up on their site as of like an hour ago was about insurance. And it says that this year is supposed to be an above normal year for hurricanes. So one of the things that you're seeing is, again, on that site, is it's suggesting that you make sure you have the coverages that you need, make sure your limits are good, check your deductible. And stuff you need to remember too is that you see a hurricane coming in next week or this weekend, I better go get flood insurance. So the National Flood Insurance Program, it has a 30-day window before the coverage goes into effect. So you can't get it last minute.
Okay.
So that's something else that people don't realize. Like, you can't get it last minute and have coverage. So if a huge storm's coming, you're like, I better go get that insurance. You have 30-day window you have to wait before that coverage actually takes effect. So, stuff you got to really look for.
And sometimes too, you don't want to, even if you're not in a required zone, it's good to have because normal insurance doesn't cover flood damage. So if we get one of these 100-year storms that they're always talking about, and
absolutely
you get water damage, you're kind of
people don't realize that either. The regular homeowners insurance does not cover for floods. So you're absolutely right. So But yeah, that's some of the things we see. I mean, we talk a lot about this, and we always do, the Tanya's tips. I mean, do you have any tips? I mean, I know I have a few things too, but I mean, do you have any specific tips that you tell people and talk to them about? So
I think one of the important things in the real estate process is don't wait till close to closing for your insurance quote. So get a quote early. If you find a house that you love and you're getting ready to put an offer in, definitely get some quotes on it to make sure that the final payment is going to be attainable for you.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense. That, again, you got to know what you're paying into. You got to know if it's in a flood zone. You should definitely double check that. And it's hard to even tell. I mean, there's 2 different or 3 different certification companies to say what zone something's in, and I've actually had them fight. One of them said it wasn't in a flood zone. One of them said it was, and we had a fight with the bank. And then me and you have talked before about like a corner of the property happened to be in a flood zone,
but
it doesn't even need to be the building
house.
wasn't. So I was like, we had a fight to say that wasn't in the flood zone. But even if like a tip of your building is in the flood zone, then they're going to require you to have flood insurance. So I mean, that's a very good point.
Actually, another one of my tips is to check the flood zone. So standard, as we were talking about, standard homeowners insurance doesn't cover flood. But you can go on msc.fema.gov, type in the address of the property you're interested in, and check to see what zone it's actually in.
Absolutely. Great tips.
Another thing is ask the seller if they're currently paying flood insurance or if they have a certificate of elevation.
I like that a lot too. I mean, that's a really good point too. So if they already know, that's great, and you kind of know what you're getting into a little bit, but you still should get a quote based on their quote, but hopefully they're grandfathered in, the seller, to the next buyer,
right? They can
for the older
take the
rates,
policy.
so they can actually save a little bit,
right?
Because the policies and the rates have gone up,
yes,
typically since they had their flood insurance. So that's a very good point. So,
also work with a local insurance agent. They really kind of understand the risks and in this specific area with wind zones, elevation, coastal exposure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, bundling and saving is one that kind of gets overlooked in the process
that's
too.
You always see the commercials for that, but it really does make a difference. You do save money.
Yeah, anywhere you can save a couple dollars
is
great.
That's awesome.
Another thing would be to review your policy. So buyers should always review their coverage options before committing to a purchase.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was saying too. And if you're a seller in an area, again, you should always, if you're selling your house, a storm comes in, messes up your house, and you don't have enough coverage, review your policy limits. I mean, you might have bought your house 10 years ago and you got the policy limits from 10 years ago.
Right.
The cost of everything, tariffs, everything else made everything
go up. Yeah.
You should absolutely check your policy limits, check your deductible. You should be doing this typically on an annual or every 2 years at the most.
When you're renewing is a good time to
absolutely. So every year is what I suggest. So awesome. So yeah, I mean, great tips there. I mean, nothing else really to talk about. I mean, I did see a little bit about the Florida insurance stuff that we spoke about earlier. There's a lot of insurance companies pulling out of Florida because a lot of the damage
California
and stuff.
Too, I've seen.
California, yeah. You see a lot of these superstorms, so there's a very big increase in certain areas, and you see it in Cape Cod too. A lot of companies don't want to insure near the water, so everything we talked about.
I have that problem every year.
Yeah, you do, exactly. So
it's that flood, or not the flood. I'm sorry, the wind.
The wind. Oh yeah, the wind deductibles are very big, so that's something else to take a look at too. So, it's been a great show. I love talking about insurance. Love talking about all the different things that we see, especially the closing confessions are great. Some of the stuff that we talk about. So we really appreciate you guys sharing and subscribing and all that. And if you have any questions for us, feel free to reach out. If you have any really cool, crazy closing confessions you want to share
your stories.
We can share on air with you guys, and tune in next time. Thank you so much.